inside there. So with my plumbing job I did on here, and see if you can see that one up there. So that one, you really don't want any of the tubing in there. I mean, because the more tubing that's in there, the quicker the fuel is going to start coming out the top. And I have a T connector right here, and then the tubing goes through the other side, and I have a loop over here. So what this does is it lets air you know, go in there. And with a fuel tank like this, if you don't have an air return, it's going to get a vacuum, and when you get that vacuum, it's going to kill your engine, because it's constantly having suction in there, and you just can't have that, you know. I had a vent loop one time on a helicopter, and you know, I put some zip ties on there to kind of hold it in place, but somehow, some way, it got too tight, and it ended up getting crimped like this right here. And I was up, you know, like 50-60 feet in the air. The engine started running really rough, and I ended up having to do a hovering auto rotation from like 50 feet up in the air. And you know, I saved the helicopter, but on the other side it kind of cracked the plastic skid struts. I have this on here where it helps with the routing. Now unfortunately only the black tubing fits through there. Those holes are pretty small. The key thing you want when you're routing your fuel tubing, you do not want your fuel tubing touching the engine. Now the plastic part up there is okay, because that's, you know, helping the fan suck air through there. But the engine, as you get down, you know, closer to the piston area, gets really hot. So you don't want gasoline and a rubber hose rubbing up directly against you know, a hot engine. So and then they recommend, when you're trying to slide your gas tank in, to put a little bit of Windex on there. Of course, you don't want to use Windex with ammonia, because the ammonia will, you know, mess up the plastic or whatever the material is in the Nalgene fuel tanks. But anyway, you want everything to be nice and neat. And I put this in here because for fueling, you know, I have the little cap on there. You take the cap off and you can fuel it. And if you need to defuel it, you know, ideally you're going to want that on the bottom of the tank there, so that it can suck out all the fuel, so that you can defuel it nicely. And anyway, I learned a lot from doing this this way, and you know, I did make some mistakes. Key thing is to, you know, learn from your mistakes. You know, I would have probably made smaller holes so it get a tighter seal, and you know, use the proper tool so that the hole is, like, you know, perfectly round and circular, nice and clean. And the type of drill bit I used, you know, hindsight's 2020. Obviously the type of drill bit that I used was not the correct drill bit. It got the job done. I ended up using Simple Green to kind of lubricate the fuel tank, because that is a tight fit. And I did put heat tape on the fuel tank So that's this silver tape, because the exhaust comes out, you know, right there. So as you can see, the clearance between the hot, this is like a type of Teflon material, but you know, the muffler gets extremely hot, and there's still heat generated by this Teflon. I mean, if you touched it, it would burn you. And you know, it has the rear mounted Zimmerman muffler on the back. I always put silencers on those. Now I have a couple of bigger silencers. I believe this one's like 6 inches. I'm not sure, this one's probably like, I'm not even sure, 8 inches or longer. But you just basically, you know, slide these on over the end of the muffler. I'll eventually put a 3-inch silencer on there, and it just makes it a little bit more quiet. It kind of deadens the sound, but you're always going to have you know, a certain amount of engine roar from, you know, within the engine, you know, coming through the carburetor. And that's it. You know, this was my first time plumbing a fuel tank. So like I said, ideally, you know, if it's possible to get this hole a little further to the outside, because when I did put fuel in there, it wasn't quite all the way up there, and the fuel is already starting to come out. So if you can get this hole a little bit further up, get it a little bit higher, I might try to pull this tubing out a little bit more to, you know, try to get the fuel to so you can get the tank more completely full by getting that higher up. So I did, this is the larger diameter. It's larger than the 3/32 Tygon tubing. It is a bigger, heavier tubing. I should be okay with the placement of my clunk there, and you know, having the bigger diameter hose, it makes it a little bit easier when you're refueling it. And this little plug I put on there on the 3/32 Tygon tubing, it was extremely difficult to actually get that you know, into the tubing. And with this, it's easier to pop that out. And just to illustrate, looks like this GoPro's battery is about to die on me. Anyway, just for illustration purposes, with the fueling, I'm going to fill it up, do another integrity check of the fuel tank. So you just get that going in there, and I'm going to try to show you how quickly that starts to come out on the top there. It is a 16-ounce bottle, and with the fuel, I always get the non-ethanol gasoline. Okay, that's the other advantage of having the yellow. With the black tubing, you can't see when that's coming out, but it's only getting this much fuel before it's coming out of the fuel tank. But right now, this looks a lot better. It's not leaking. This one was leaking yesterday. This one was leaking very badly. Gasoline was coming out all over the tank, and you don't want that. You can't have that. It needs to be a nice, snug fit. And I'll show you with defueling. You just turn the reel counterclockwise and it takes fuel out. So that was a good integrity check of the fuel tank. It's not perfect, but it will do the job. Okay, and that's it. So you can see, you know, having the fuel hose in there does a pretty good job of, you know, getting as much of the fuel out of there as possible, and that's about it. You want to use a high quality synthetic two-stroke oil to mix with your gasoline. I mix it 32:1. These Zenoa engines, they're owned by Husqvarna, and they used to be like weed eater engines a long time ago.